The Las Vegas Raiders just pulled off something that no one in the NFL saw coming. Not analysts, not rival front offices, not even their own fans. In the span of one single offseason, this franchise went on a $281 million spending spree in free agency, hired a head coach in Clint Kubiak, who just helped Seattle reach a Super Bowl, locked in the #1 overall pick to draft a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback in Fernando Mendoza. And then, right when everyone thought their best defensive player was gone forever, the Baltimore Ravens backed out of the Max Crosby trade and handed him right back to Las Vegas. Read that again. A new head coach, a franchise quarterback, a record-breaking offensive line signing, a completely rebuilt defense, and then on top of all of it, a 5-time Pro Bowl pass rusher that the entire league thought was already wearing purple and black. All of that happened to one team in one offseason, and almost nobody is talking about it the way they should be. Think about where this team was 12 months ago. 3 wins, 14 losses, a head coach fired before the offseason even got warm, an offensive line so bad that their first-round running back, Ashton Jeanty, could barely find a crease to run through, despite being one of the most electric college backs in recent history. The franchise felt stuck. It felt directionless. And then John Spytek and this front office went to work, and what they did in the last few weeks changed everything. They signed Tyler Linderbaum to the richest interior offensive line contract in NFL history. They brought in Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean to completely transform the linebacker room. They added Kwity Paye as an edge rushing weapon. They re-signed Eric Stokes, acquired Taron Johnson from Buffalo, and brought back Malcolm Koonce. And every single one of those moves was made while the team still believed Crosby was being traded away. They were building a roster designed to compete without their best player. That alone tells you everything about the mindset of this front office. But here is the part that changes this from a good offseason into a potentially historic one. The Ravens failed Max Crosby on his physical. The trade collapsed. And now every single defensive addition the Raiders made gets stacked on top of a generational pass rusher who just told the world he is back. Well, you have a franchise quarterback walking into a system built to protect him. You have a running game that is about to look completely different behind the best interior offensive line this team has had in years. You have a defense that added 6 new starters and then got its best player returned like a bonus nobody budgeted for. This is not a team that is rebuilding. This is not a team that is hoping to get lucky. This is a team that just rebuilt itself from the ground up in one offseason. And what they did on offense is where the real story starts. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Raiders and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 500 likes on this video. Fernando Mendoza does not just check boxes on a scouting report. He rewrites them. 41 touchdown passes last season. Yeah, the most in all of college football. A perfect 16-0 record at Indiana, something no modern program had ever done before. A national championship victory over Miami, where he personally scored the go-ahead rushing touchdown in the 4th quarter that sealed the game 27-21. He is 6'5", 236 pounds, and he ran a pro-style offense in college that translates almost play for play into what Clint Kubiak wants to run in Las Vegas. That is not a coincidence. That is a cheat code. Most rookie quarterbacks walk into the NFL and spend their first year learning a system that looks nothing like what they ran in college. Mendoza walks into a system that already speaks his language. But what separates him from every other quarterback prospect in this class is not the arm or the size. Well, it is the way he thinks. NFL scouts at the Combine called him a microchip processor because of how fast he reads coverage and delivers the ball to the exact spot his receiver needs it. His private quarterback coach since high school said that when Mendoza gets into the Raiders playbook, he will notice if a footwork detail is off by an inch and demand to know why. That level of obsession with precision is what turned his back shoulder throw into arguably the most unguardable weapon in college football last season. When timing and placement are that exact, defensive backs simply cannot contest it. And here's what makes the fit even more dangerous. Mendoza is not walking into a situation where he has to carry this team on his arm from day one. And the Raiders spent every dollar and every move this offseason making sure their franchise quarterback has the one thing most young signal callers never get, and that is a running game built to take the pressure completely off his shoulders. Watch the film on Tyler Linderbaum, and one play tells you everything. A defense runs a double-edged tackle stunt where the inside rusher crashes toward the guard while the outside man loops through the A-gap. Most centers either freeze or stick on the wrong man. Linderbaum reads it before it even develops, passes the first rusher off cleanly, picks up the looper, and eliminates him from the play entirely. That is not just athletic ability. That is a football brain operating 2 steps ahead of everyone around him. 3 Pro Bowl selections in 4 seasons with Baltimore. And now he anchors the middle of this Raiders offensive line with a level of intelligence and physicality that this franchise has not had at center in a very long time. The ripple effect is what makes this signing transformational. Jackson Powers Johnson spent his entire time in Las Vegas, bouncing between center and guard with no stability. One week, he is snapping the ball. The next week, he is pulling from the guard spot. That kind of inconsistency kills development. Now with Linderbaum locked in at center, JPJ finally has a permanent home at left guard, and he is fired up about it. When you watch him move to the second level on run plays, he does things from the interior that almost no other lineman in the league can replicate. Pair him with Linderbaum on one side and Pro Bowl tackle Colton Miller on the other, and that left side of the line becomes one of the most physically punishing combinations in the entire NFL. Now add Connor Hayward into the equation as a fullback who can lead block in 12 personnel, hold his own in pass protection, and open up cutback lanes that completely change how defenses have to align against the run. This offensive line did not just get better, it got dangerous. And the player who benefits most from every single one of these upgrades is someone this fan base has been waiting to see unleashed. 2,601 rushing yards in his final college season at Boise State. 29 touchdowns on the ground, the 6th overall pick in the 2025 draft. And yet Ashton Genty's first NFL season looked nothing like the highlight reel that made him a household name. But before anyone questions the talent, look at what he was running behind. That 2025 offensive line gave him almost nothing to work with. Lanes collapsed before he could hit the hole. Second-level defenders were in his face untouched. Even a generational back like Marcus Allen would have struggled to produce behind that kind of blocking. Genty still managed to lead all rookies in rushing yards and total scrimmage yards, despite the chaos around him, and that tells you something important about what happens when the blocking finally catches up to the talent. Now picture the 2026 version. Linderbaum is collapsing the interior and reaching the second level to erase linebackers. Powers Johnson is creating movement at the point of attack that opens cutback lanes Genty never had access to before. Hayward is lining up as a lead blocker in 2 back sets and clearing a path through the A-gap. Kubiak comes from a Seattle system that made the ground game the foundation of everything the offense did. This is not an offense that will ask Genty to create something out of nothing anymore. This is an offense designed to put him in space with blockers ahead of him and let his vision and burst do the rest. And here is what makes it all connect. When defenses load the box to stop Genty, safeties have to cheat down. When safeties cheat down, the deep middle opens up. When the deep middle opens up, that is where Brock Bowers becomes a nightmare. And that is where a group of wide receivers built entirely around one thing starts to take over. This wide receiver room does not have a traditional number 1 target, and that is completely intentional. The Raiders are not trying to build around a single star pass catcher. They are building around a concept: speed everywhere. Jalen Nailor signed a 3-year, $35 million deal and brings the kind of acceleration that turns short completions into chunk plays. 57 catches, 858 yards, and 10 touchdowns over his last 2 seasons in Minnesota. When he runs a slant and catches it in stride, the burst he hits after the reception is something most defenders simply cannot match. He does not need 20 targets a game to change an offense. He needs 5 or 6 touches in the right spots, and suddenly the entire secondary is playing scared. Derek Young fills a completely different role, but fits this system perfectly. He already knows Kubiak's playbook from his time in Seattle, and he is a big-bodied receiver who wins 50-50 balls on play-action bootlegs, blocks well enough to earn reps in the run game, and brings elite special teams value. Pair those two with Trey Tucker's deep speed, Jack Besh's slot ability, and Dante Thornton Jr.'s 6'5" frame stretching the field vertically, and you have 5 receivers who all do something different but serve the same purpose. Force defensive coordinators to pick which level of the field they want to protect because they cannot cover all of them. That is where the tight ends become lethal. Brock Bowers, working the seams against single coverage, is already one of the toughest matchups in football. Michael Mayer gives you a reliable second option underneath. When every receiver on the outside is threatening to take the top off the defense, the middle of the field turns into open territory. But none of this offense matters if the other side of the ball cannot hold up. And what the Raiders did defensively might be the most shocking part of this entire offseason. Forget the names for a second and look at what Rob Leonard is actually building schematically. A brand new 3-4 defense that demands length, speed, and physicality at every position. Quay Walker is not just a free agent signing. He is a 6'4", 241-pound linebacker who posted 226 tackles over 47 games in Philadelphia, brings legitimate coverage ability that the Raiders desperately lacked last season, and now reunites with his former Georgia teammate Nakobe Dean, who adds 11 pressures and a 40.7% pressure rate as a blitzer. If those two together give Leonard a linebacker duo that can cover tight ends in space, shoot gaps on the blitz, and still hold up against the run. That kind of versatility at the second level changes what a defensive coordinator can dial up on any given snap. Kwity Paye is the piece nobody is giving enough credit to. $48 million for a former first-round pick from Indianapolis who has the explosiveness to win off the edge, but never had consistent help around him. Now imagine him rushing opposite Max Crosby. Offensive lines have to pick who gets the double team. Someone is getting a one-on-one matchup every single play, and neither of these guys loses those often. Add Malcolm Kuntz rotating in as a fresh pass rushing option after recovering from his torn ACL, and this edge group has 3 legitimate threats taking turns attacking the quarterback. The secondary quietly got better too. Eric Stokes posted a career-high 16 starts last season. Taron Johnson brings proven slot corner ability from Buffalo. Jeremy Chin adds versatility at safety. Stack all of these pieces on top of each other inside a new scheme with a defensive coordinator who knows exactly how to use them. And one massive question remains. What are the Raiders doing with pick 36? And who are they targeting to fill the few gaps that are still left on this roster? The number 1 overall pick is sealed. Fernando Mendoza is the guy. That makes pick 36 the real chess move of this entire draft for the Raiders. And the board at that spot is loaded with players who could immediately start. On the defensive interior, Lee Hunter from Texas Tech is the name to remember. 6'4", 330 pounds, and one of the most dominant nose tackle prospects in this class. Every scout at the Combine praised his interview. Every evaluator who watched the tape saw a run defender who swallows double teams and makes everyone around him better. Texas Tech fielded one of the best defenses in college football last season, and Hunter was the anchor of the whole thing. If the Raiders want a true space eater who frees up Crosby and Paye on the edges, Hunter is the fit. Christian Miller from Georgia is the other interior option at 6'4", 305 pounds, with the added bonus of continuing the Bulldogs pipeline alongside Walker and Dean. On offense, the wide receiver options are fascinating. KC Conception from Texas, A&M had 61 catches at 919 yards and 9 touchdowns last season. His short area quickness in the first 15 to 20 yards of a route is arguably the best in this entire class. And the comparison that keeps coming up is Jackson Smith-Njigba, the same receiver Kubiak turned into a weapon in Seattle. Jeremy Bernard from Alabama is a physical, yards-after-catch threat with 5 years of college experience and big hands built for contested grabs. Zachariah Branch from Georgia ran a 4.34 at the Combine, has hometown ties to Las Vegas, and met with the Raiders at the Combine in a meeting that went extremely well. But here's what makes this even more interesting. John Spytek made multiple trades on day 2 of last year's draft. Do not be surprised if he moves back from 36, acquires extra picks, and attacks multiple needs instead of just one. The flexibility this front office has built into the draft board tells you something bigger about the vision driving every decision this offseason, and that vision is what ties this entire story together. Take every move this front office made and line them up next to each other, not as isolated transactions, as a connected blueprint. Kubiak was not hired just because he coached in a Super Bowl. He was hired because his offensive system requires a strong run game, play action creativity, and a quarterback who can place the ball with precision on timing routes. Then the Raiders drafted exactly that quarterback. Then they signed exactly the offensive linemen who make that run game elite. Then they added exactly the receivers whose speed unlocks the play action downfield. And then they built exactly the defense that keeps games close enough for the offense to control the clock. Every single piece connects to the next. Nothing was random. Nothing was panic spending. This was architecture. Look at the 3 things that destroy young quarterbacks in this league: bad protection, no run support, and a defense that puts them in constant comeback mode. Mendoza walks into a situation where Linderbaum and Powers Johnson give him a top-tier interior pocket. Genty and Hayward give him a ground game that keeps drives alive and safeties honest. Crosby, Paye, Walker, and Dean give him a defense that creates turnovers and short fields. Most first overall picks spend their first 2 seasons surviving. Mendoza has a chance to spend his first season thriving, and that difference is enormous. About 12 months ago, the Raiders won 3 games and fired their head coach. The roster felt hollow. The direction felt lost. Today, this team has a Heisman-winning quarterback, the highest-paid center in football, a rookie running back ready to break out in year 2, a pass rush built around one of the most relentless defenders in the NFL, and a coaching staff that knows exactly what it wants to be. The rest of the AFC can keep sleeping on this team. By September, they will not have that luxury anymore.